But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in-store, and exclusive access to sold-out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job has just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
All right, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. And on today's episode, speaking about their life in music, is the singer-songwriter Ed Harcourt. On Heavenly Recordings for his first couple of albums, where he where he tucked himself away in the countryside to write and put music first. Every time when I first heard about how he did that for one of his earlier albums, Ed Harcourt, I thought, this is someone who could have been going out and getting on the lash every night, but to put yourself away and put music first, I think that speaks a lot. We talk about that on this episode. He's come a long way since then, and his new album, El Magnifico, which is his 11th record, I think, it's coming out the 29th of March, and it's got such a phenomenal sound. Real sing-writer, real like sweeping songs, great lyrics, great memories, great pictures. Ed Harcourt, huge fan. I was looking at his Instagram earlier today, and I thought, I think there are some people in the world where music is the communication. That's enough. More than anything else, more than anything online, the record is the communication, and Ed Harcourt is one of those for me. Cheers for listening. Been a great couple of weeks. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. If you're not, click that subscribe button for lots more episodes, 2 a week. I promise myself to, for better or worse. I've got Olivia, who's helping with editing. Thank you, Olivia. She edited this. 101 is coming up. Cheers for being here. Shout out to 2000 Trees, our sponsors, the best medium-sized festival in the UK. This July, the Gaslight Anthem and the Chats are headlining. Manchester Orchestra are playing. Hot Mulligan, Boston Manor, Nova Twins. If you want to go get your tickets to 2000 Trees this year, head to 2000trees.co.uk and treat yourself to one of the country's best festivals.
Introducing Ampolo, the new app for musicians. Using AI stem separation, play along to any song, improving your practice and performance. Record audio or video and connect with musicians all over the world, collaborating and creating together. Think Google Docs meets TikTok, but for musicians. There's a huge range of video and audio editing tools, and the best part, it's free. Download today and make your mark. Ampolo, made for music.
Ampolo, it's a super useful app to learn your instruments, to meet people online, to put out music. Ampolo, get it from the App Store right now at 101 Part-Time Jobs. It's Ed Harcourt. 101 Part-Time Jobs.
When I sort of first started making music, I had only one microphone.
Brilliant.
So, and I was using a Tascam like 4-track cassette tape recorder. So, and I lived in my grandmother's house, and she lived in the sort of this attic room, and there was no one else in this rambling old farmhouse apart from me and the sort of sound of mice clawing in the, in the walls. And so I had like one really, really shit mic, like terrible. And I just would use it on the piano, use it on the drums, and it kind of sounded pretty cool. So I don't know, man. There's something to be said for like the one mic. I think the Eagles sacked Glyn Johns when they were making their records because he only used like 2 mics on the drums, and Don Henley wanted to have all the toms mic'd and everything, and was very wanted to have like 20 mics on the drums and
have it as bright as their smiles.
I don't know, there's just something whenever I've like recorded and I just get like, if it is a good mic, it's pretty good, and you just face it at the drum kit and then turn the gain up and saturate it sounds amazing.
I think if you can make a song sound good on a crap microphone, that's starting off in a good way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, that's the thing. There's no such thing as like lo-fi or demo or rough. I don't think those phrases should exist at all, really. I think you can, I've done recordings that have made it onto records that are like literally a voice note on a phone,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think Taylor Swift really brought that idea to young people today with her voice notes. Because immediately, even for me, and I don't write music at the moment, but as someone who's like somewhere between a fan and someone who used to play music, when Taylor Swift started releasing voice notes, like a big light bulb went off in my head. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. That is very cool.
It's very cool. It's kind of like, I was on tour in Italy, and backstage I was on tour with the Afghan Wigs, and I had my phone on top of an old beaten up piano, and I just was like, had a bottle of beer. I was really bored, and I'd done my set, and so I kind of just like, with the noise in the background as well of like different people walking past and the sound of the band like off in the distance, I just sort of played this piece, and it ended up making it onto one of my instrumental records. you know, like, and people love it. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
It's called Faded Photographs.
Brilliant.
It's on Beyond the End.
Brilliant.
And then I just put it in the studio and then just kind of like did a little sort of choral thing underneath it, you know, very subtle. But, so yeah, I use my phone. I use the voice notes all the time. So it's just been total madness because I had to drive up to Manchester yesterday and collect 2 kittens.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah, so we've got one cat already who's like 6 years old and is like a big alpha male tabby stroke Bengal, and then we've got these 2 little tiny 8-week 2 sisters and they're so super cute. So
you don't get cuter than kittens.
No, they're called Beastie and Audrey after Beastie Boys and Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, hell yeah, why not?
Yeah.
We've got a Mr. Pickles that we took to the vet this morning for his annual checkups.
Oh, I was just at the vet.
Yeah, there we go. Get that Medivet. We should get a commission. Exactly, we should get the referral commission.
I know. So expensive.
I'm glad you brought up the cottage, because I remember reading about that. Was that quite early on in the kind of Heavenly recordings days that you were down there?
Yeah, I was down. Yeah. So yeah, Maplewood basically was down, made on cassette, 4-track down there, and then I moved to London. But you know, it was good. It was a good place to be. And I'm sort of back now with my own studio, the Wolf Cabin, where I can also kind of have that same sort of isolation, you know.
Yeah, down at the end of your garden.
Down at the end of the garden, yeah. So I've been there for about 6.5 years, and
nice.
I can just kind of focus and get on with things. But yeah, I need to be busy. If I'm not busy, I'm going mad. So
when I first read that, and I think I read it in the Heavenly 25 Years of Brilliant book that I've got up there, and I think my first thought was, because for whatever reason, and this is why I do this podcast, because for whatever reason, between being like a mega fan and someone that was in a touring band in my late teens, I just have this sort of unquenchable thirst, if you like, for like art and how people do it and why people do it and why that is that in a 3.5 minute song we can find the meaning of ourselves and, you know, our past and our future. And one of the reason why I started doing 101 part-time jobs is because I think that no one's really doing a very good job of reflecting musicians right now and how they operate in a world that's always changing. You know, every week there's some new tech. And so, you know, with that, in that context, when I read about you going down, you know, as a early 20s person who maybe as a sociable person, you know, you're putting yourself in isolation to write. The thing that I think of then is, oh wow, you know, you've put the thing that you love doing first before your want of social need. You put the art discipline first.
100%. And I think if you don't drive yourself and propel yourself into that place, you're never going to get it done, ever, really. You have to have that compulsion. I think I heard that Nick Cave treats his songwriting almost like a kind of 9-to-5 job. You know, he has a piano in an office, goes to the office at 9 a.m., finishes at 5 p.m., and is very disciplined in that way. And I mean, if you're just on your own, you have to really push yourself. And it's, you know, if you're co-writing with someone else and you're writing with them, you know, they come up here into the country and they get here for like 10 a.m. and we work till 6. And so in that window, they're there, I'm there to kind of be a conduit and help them, but we have to get something. So like I'm kind of constantly pushing and driving, because otherwise they're going to leave after a day's work. If they leave with nothing, I would have failed completely. So
right, so you've kind of got a clear, you know, whether you've either done something or you haven't done something. It can be quite clear to you.
Yeah, and also it's just either might click or it might not, and it's the same when you're on your own. The amount of times that I have unfinished songs or pieces of music, and the amount of times it's like 50-50 where I've come back to it and gone, wow, this is actually pretty good. I need to finish this, and this could be something. Yeah. And then on the flip side, I'm like, wow, well, this is so shit. Like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard, you know, and like, I'm going to delete it.
That's the journey though, right?
It's the journey.
That's the journey. Like Ed and the Nick Cave thing, because he dresses in a suit, and even when he was kind of, you know.
There's something to be said for that. Literally an hour and a half ago, I had a full beard and I was starting to feel a bit haggard, and the beard was looking like pretty white round here. And I was like, no, I'm not having that. It's got to go. And then I shaved, had a shower, and kind of like felt really like ready to go, you know. So
yeah, it's funny how it happens.
I know. I thought having a beard in the winter would be kind of, go for the mountain man look, but it's not happening.
I had the thing this morning because I'm doing, and you know Sam from Signature Brew, who's a great friend. And I'm doing some live podcasts with him this week at the brewery. And I asked my girlfriend this morning, I was like, do I shave or do I not shave? Like, what's going to look cooler? And she did say, Giles, I think the beard gives a bit of the edge. But I wanted to shave because I feel more, you feel more proper, don't you? And I suppose I had an upbringing where I was a bit naughty all the time, but I was also in the kind of scenarios where being proper was sort of part of it. And I could see the kind of benefit of being proper and, turning up, if you like, for the occasion.
Well, I've gone for the moustache lately in the last sort of 10 years because my beard was going white, and it just means I can still have a little bit of facial hair. But now the moustache is starting to get, quite a few little white.
I've always thought you've had a bit of a Mark Lanegan look about you. I think you're sort of like the Mark Lanegan of British music. You've collaborated with so many.
I loved Mark, and I was lucky enough to collaborate with him on his last record, on the straight songs of Sorrow. He emailed me or texted me and said, play some keys on like 4 tracks. So, but yeah, we were all very, very upset when he passed.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a dude! That one of those. The Shadow of the Season by the Screaming Trees was a song I used to listen to when walking to school, when I was about sort of 15, and I kind of had a bit of anger at the world and felt a bit kind of like, I don't know, music was my only solace in a way, and stuck at this school that I didn't really like. And I just remember walking, it always used to give me a sense of kind of intent and power, and with his kind of, and when his voice would come in, I was like, this guy, and then 15 years later, I'm on a tour bus with him,
Getting hired as a piano player, and I feel like you've got you've got that element of it. I mean, I don't really like the phrase hired gun, but as a piano player, you are an instrument that is like, fuck yeah, of course the arrangement's going to sound better with a piano player. And you've written your own stuff. You have your own personality. You have, you're able to let your... I saw you a couple of months ago just before Christmas in Hackney, and the one thing I came away from it, and I don't think I got this live from you more than the records, is that I felt like quite a kind of an impishness from you, a kind of that. No, and I mean that in the bit as that kind of like childlike wonder that you've still managed to get. And so those are kind of two things that I rate quite high, very highly, like keeping the personality while being someone who gets the fucking job done.
I think that's really kind of you to say that, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, because for me, having that impishness and also surrealism and absurdity a little bit, especially like, I think I love songs that have that kind of equal measure of absolute total sadness, but also sort of gallows humor and that always appeals to me. But I think there's also an element of nervousness, like when I'm on stage, I'm kind of like, I want to get the job done, but a lot of it is a front for just being scared shitless. So it used to be, 20 years ago, I used to sort of drink quite a lot before I went on stage, and it could go either way. It was a bit of a gamble.
Yeah.
But I don't really do that. I might have like one shot of tequila and that's it. But I'm sort of, I do want to put on as good a show as I can on my own, without resorting to too many gimmicks. I've sort of like bit over the whole looping thing and things like that. I just want to get, as long, for me, I'm happiest when it's just me and a piano. I can just get behind a piano and that's it. And I can play for 3 hours if, God forbid, but I do a Springsteen. But, I'm that's sort of I'm in my happy place. But it's sort of weird. It's like I love it so much, but it also scares the shit out of me. So.
And collaborating with other people, and I suppose over the years you must have had times of self-reflection of like, okay, you know, what are the different channels of music I'm interested in? You know, making your own records is clearly one. Working, collaborating with others, you know, has to be up there as well. How have you been able to reflect of, okay, you know, this is my career and I've got to be quite smart as well as being creative?
It's got much more difficult lately. I think to be a sort of self-employed creative, I guess, if you're going to call it that in the, you know, broad sense of things.
Got to call it something.
Yeah. But like, you know, I am constantly trying to kind of just attach myself to lots of different projects. And I'm happiest when I'm juggling 3-4 things at the same time, which is why I'm trying to get into film scores. I've done a couple of feature doc scores. And that's kind of feels like a bright future for me, and something that I'm truly passionate about. But I'm kind of like, a lot of the time I'm sort of like waiting for things to sort of someone to approach me. I don't really, I wish I could be more assertive, you know, but a lot of this, and also I'm in this kind of like slight limbo period because the album's not out yet. So I'm sort of, it's always like this. It's always like the calm before the storm, and I'm just sort of waiting around. So I'm not really writing many songs for myself because I'm waiting for that closure on this album. So once it's been released into the wild, I can kind of like, I can move on and crack on, you know.
Right. Working with other people, there's that, what's that old phrase, like the Nashville handshake, where you know, shove your demo tape into someone. What do you think you've been like that? You know, in a room, are you the person who is like, you know, oh yeah, I write songs? So
no, I'm not. I'm terrible at networking, like really bad. Like, I don't have the schmoozy. I'm sociable and I'm gregarious, but I'm not very good at selling myself. Like I wish I was better at it, to be honest. But I'm literally one of those people where I'm kind of like, I'll just kind of sit in the wolf cabin and wait until someone calls.
Yeah. And I suppose being in the wolf cabin, presumably the overheads aren't huge if it's the cabin in your house. So you can kind of protect yourself there. It seems like, you know, it's a protective place.
It's a great place. It's completely soundproof. I can play, you know, extremely loud music. I could play, you know, doom metal at 4 a.m. if I wanted to. And
hell yeah.
I don't get any sort of response from the neighbors, which is great. Actually, I was just thinking, going back to what you said earlier, when people hire me as a piano player and they're like, let's get, you know, this guy because he'll do it in a certain way. I've actually had that work against me where too much of my personality has come onto a piano part and they've just wanted something very simple. So sometimes it can be detrimental. It can like work against you if you've got it's too much personality, man. You know.
That's a genuinely scary thing to have, isn't it? I think like no matter what you're doing, you know, how high can you let your freak flag fly before you get in the way of yourself?
That's the thing. I think you do have to be objective, and you do have to think out the box at the same time. And I think you've got to be aware of what other people might want and not just kind of faff all over their music, you know, because it can be, you know, it can be quite tempting to just be like, yeah, this is what I do. You know, you wanted me, that's what you're getting. So, yeah. So like, again, the aspect of that hired gun mentality, you know, you've got to be respectful a little bit to what other people want, you know.
And does that mean that maybe it's a hard question to answer because it's such like a granular kind of cellular thing, but can you separate that stuff from writing your own tunes? And, you know, the way that you can like I don't know, when I'm writing, and say if I'm writing, you know, or I'm remembering a bit of my youth and I get into this happy place and there's like nothing that can go wrong because I'm that. Whereas that safety doesn't necessarily exist when you're working with other people. I
think you just have to listen to the other person. And when you've been doing it for a while, it's very easy to kind of run away with things. And I'm always very aware, like when I'm working with other people, especially writing and we're recording, I'm a bit of a jumping around the studio. I sort of bouncing off the walls. So I suddenly have to catch myself and go, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sort of running away with this. And most of the time people just go, do your thing, man. So that's fine. But I am aware of kind of dominating the conversation too much,
It's interesting because jamming El Magnifico, the opening couple of tracks, and especially 1987, where you paint these pictures and it is like I'm reading a book. It's like I feel like I'm in bed and I'm cozy and and I feel I'm either there or I'm at the pub, like 8 pints deep and like feeling fucking great. You kind of capture those spirits on it, and it's because that is such a wash. There's so many layers to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really went sort of maximalized with that one, and I just that song is multifaceted in a way. It sort of has lots of different meanings to it. I mean, there's ultimately the main crux of it all was sort of coming out of, I guess it's not a lockdown thing, but it was like there's an element of escapism, and it was sort of coming out of the pandemic and kind of being like, hey, we did it. We got through it. We're still here. And I just want to see you and hang out with you. And but then it kind of tied into when I first discovered music, which was 1987. But then weirdly, how my mind works in a tangential way, then it was kind of like, oh, what else happened in 1987? Oh, it's that storm when that big tree fell through my window and nearly crushed me in my bed while I was sleeping. And then it got me thinking about all the times I've been really stupid and nearly died. Mm-hmm. But then that also led to artistic license and my capacity for telling white lies as a storyteller. So it's just like this whole maelstrom of different things that kind of I had to collect and collate into one piece of music.
So the tree coming through the window, that happened?
Yeah, so that happened. There was an oak tree in our front garden. We lived on a army patch because my dad was in the army, and it was in West Byfleet. And I just remember the storm happening and the tree cracking and coming in and coming through my window.
Crikey! And when did he wake up? Did he woke up just like sort of momentarily after the crash?
No, I didn't. I don't think I even woke up. I think I woke up in the morning with the tree through the window. That's how I remember it.
yeah.
But know, but there were other things. There's other things that are kind of when people ask me, I'll answer it. But there's things like motorcycle crashes, car crashes, jumping off roofs, drug overdoses. My mother and I missed the boat Townsend Torreson that sunk. We were meant to get the Townsend Torreson that sunk, and everyone died.
I don't know that one. What year was that?
It was in the mid-80s. It was a boat that went from Calais to Dover, and they left the bow doors open.
Christ!
It was absolutely tragic, and a lot of people drowned. And my mum missed. We missed that boat going back to England from Holland when we lived in Holland. So,
you missed it because you overran. You were late for it.
Yeah, we were late.
Oh my God. Do you remember why you were late?
I think traffic jam, or my mum got, you didn't have sat nav back in that day, so we might have got lost or something.
Oh my God. Do you know, it's quite Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, that kind of stuff. And that's 1987. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's also, there's a reflection aspect to just looking back on sort of, all the things that have happened. And I like stuff like that where you just kind of reflect and look back over, they're sort of memories, but they're broken. They're sort of broken, fractured memories. You know? And then, so I love the idea of writing a song that kind of sort of tells that story, but it's also, you're kind of like, I'm not completely 100% sure if that's true.
I like that you can look back on those things and look at the amazing times. You can look at the tragic times. You can look at the big mistakes and the if whats and shouldn't have done that. And the thing that I get so much out of that kind of storytelling is that, you're propelling yourself in your own life. You know, you're becoming your own impetus to survive and push yourself forward. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And I think for me as well is being inspired by other artists who are releasing new music, you know, and having that push you forward as well. I'm always searching out. I just went to see the Poor Things film.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It's really amazing. But the guy who did the film score was a guy called Jerskin Fendrix. And
good name.
Yeah. And I think he's going to get nominated. It's his first ever film score. You know, he's 28. I think he'll be nominated for an Oscar probably. I think he's nominated for a BAFTA. But the score itself comes from that sort of Micah Levi who did Under the Skin. It comes from that same world of very sort of esoteric and odd. And I think a reviewer said it was insidiously strange, which I loved.
Yeah.
And it's just, really odd and beautiful and wonderful. And it just made me, when I heard it, having scored films myself, it just made me want to be better and experiment more and just think out the box more. And I love it when that happens. I love it when I come across something like that, because that, you know, everyone needs that in order to kind of push themselves into the next chapter, you know.
Yeah, you got to open yourself. You want to learn from
divine inspiration.
Well, how do you become a scorer? I mean, you said you're not that good at networking. I mean, you can never you can always change. You can always try and get better and get a run of cards made from Vistaprint to hand out. But
I did have
how did you get into it?
I did have a card once. I had a little card. It just said "Eluding Heaven since '77."
Yeah, quality. I would hire you.
Yeah, but I don't know. It didn't really work. But I have done. Like, I guess if I'm at a film festival or something and I meet a director and then I kind of, maybe I'm kind of belittling myself a little bit. I had to do a Zoom interview with a director and I didn't get the job, but they were kind of like, so tell us about your classical background. I'm like, I don't really have one. I've trained on the piano. That's about it. I can write a string arrangement, but I guess I'm coming from a completely different place. If I'm going to be a film composer, I'm sort of up against people who have really trained, you know, and worked under Hans Zimmer and people like that. So I think maybe I need to approach it as more of a songwriter, you know, in that vein.
You get
or a producer.
Maybe it's sort of how I've seen it, and like all this stuff can obviously, you know, all be in the eyes of the beholder, but we're seeing a lot more films on Netflix and streaming sites where it's like, you know, it seems like networks are taking risks a bit more perhaps on directors and interesting ideas.
I think so, yeah. And I think, but you know, there is a lot of stuff that you hear that's kind of got the same feel, you know, that's kind of got that kind of, it's almost like they downloaded a sample pack, you know, just press one MIDI button. It's like boom, 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 boom. You know,
right?
But you know, I think that's why when I hear something as sort of idiosyncratic as that Poor Things score, that's when I think that's great. That's someone taking. That probably had a huge budget, and that's the director taking a massive kind of risk.
Yeah,
I love that, and I think we need to see more of that rather than the kind of Michael Bay action Marvel film scores, because that's just old.
That idea of backing the idiosyncratic, or that, you know, the obscure, or like the interesting. I wonder if that's something you must have done your whole life. Back yourself as a songwriter, as a musician, and you know, you tell me, but I imagine just like anyone, you would have had those times where you think, oh, fuck, I'm in a bit of between a rock and a hard place here. You know, maybe this isn't feeling the way I want it to feel. Do I go back? Do I go sideways? What do I do? But then kind of always having to work out how to back yourself.
So there's kind of a lot of instances where that happens. And when that is happening and you find yourself stuck, you just have to stop, because you'll end up going insane. And so what I do is I stop, especially if it's a song that I can't. But I always have this nagging feeling that the song will reveal itself in the right way. And so that actually happened with Strange Beauty, the first track from the new album. I had it, and I originally wrote it like a sort of I'm Waiting for My Man, Velvet Underground style kind of New York sort of song. And then I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Put it in a drawer. And then a couple of years later, I sort of pulled it out the drawer and went, there's something here, you know, there's something, I need to pursue this. So, but what I had to do was completely dismantle it and deconstruct it and start again. And so to be able to know how to do that, I don't know. I mean, it can be almost impossible because you get stuck on one thing, you know.
You must have taught yourself, because I mean, just going back to that time when you got signed and you were in the early 20s and you were going out to the States and being treated and, you know, seeing that kind of the music industry giving you some money for the first time. Yeah. You know, to see that and then to go through, you know, I think it's fair to say it's like a fairly traditional route of what happens when you get signed by a major label, that you get dropped and, you know, you find yourself as an independent voice. You have to learn these things for yourself.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky. So basically I signed to Heavenly, which was part of EMI in 2000. And they actually kept me on until 2007. So I released Maplewood and then 4 full-length albums and a best of. That was like a double album almost. And a B-sides double album as well. And, you know, I came to the end of my full 5-album deal with them.
Great. And then, sorry, that's my bad. I said you get dropped.
Fine. No, it's fine. I was dropped. I was dropped by Polydor in 2017. So that was after Furnaces came out on Polydor, which was Universal. But that was just an absolute disaster and just horrendous, you know, because I basically myself, I'd put like 5 years of my life into that record and worked with Flood over like 2 years and like hired like my favorite people, you know, Stella from Warpaint on drums, Michael Blair, who played on Tom Waits records, you know, on percussion and then the guy who signed me, he left Polydor 2 months before the album was coming out. And then I think I was on tour 3 months after it came out and they dropped all funding. And then I think it was January, 6 months after the record came out, they just sort of dropped me, which is fair enough. The guy who signed me left, and then I had like, you know, Ellie Goulding and years, A&R guy, which is what you're going to do. At the time, I was a 39-year-old man who'd written a sort of quite dense, heavy record about the impending apocalypse, and you know. So I think you know, it was. They probably just were like, no, we're not gonna back this 3-legged horse.
It must be such a bizarre feeling because I suppose these people are never going to owe you anything, right? If you're in your right mind, you're not owed anything. But at the same time, if you work together, the idea is that like a working relationship should be like a positive one. You put your best foot forward.
It would have been great. I mean, yeah, I was well up for it, and also like on their part, I mean, they're a huge Universal, you know, they're such a massive corporation, but they gave me quite a lot of money to make that record. And I was a bit like, do you not want to make your money back? I guess you could write it off as a tax loss, but you know, maybe we could, but yeah, it was nothing. It was just a very typical sort of cliche that happens in the music industry a lot. You know, the said A&R man signs someone, gives you money, and then he leaves, and then you're with someone else. It's happened so many times. So yeah, for me, and I'm not just saying it because I had a pit experience, but I do believe that the days of being on a major, especially for someone who's been around for a while, I think I wouldn't bother, you know. And I would say that to new artists, you know, I would say like definitely approach an independent or a large independent label.
I like what AWOL are doing, and I know nothing about them, but I just know that they're basically a distributor service that offers other services that like a label would, you know, but without being antiquated.
Well, I'm going through Integral, who are on PS, and they've been fantastic.
Excellent.
So I've got my record's called Deathless after the song on the record, and they've just been amazing. They've been so proactive and really supportive, but it took me a while.
Yeah,
it took me a couple of years to find a label. So the album's kind of been ready for a couple of years, you know.
So 2017, do you think you'll look back at that time? That was one of your tests. That was one of your challenges.
It was a big test because I think as a result of that, I don't think I was aware of it at the time, but I think we moved house and moved out here to the country, but I think creatively I sort of fell into a bit of a rut, and I didn't really write another song after that for about a year.
Wow.
Because I didn't have anything to say, but I wrote the timing of Beyond the End. Rich Machin from Soul Savers approached me and said, "Do you want to do an instrumental record?" And I'd literally just built the studio, and I'd put this old baby grand into the studio, and I was sort of tinkering around on that, but not writing any words, just playing like really melancholy piano music. And so the timing was perfect. And he said, "Right, you know, why don't you do an instrumental kind of sort of," and his references were like, you know, the assassination of Jesse James, Warren Ellis and Nick Cave, and also like my references were Debussy and Satie and stuff like that a little bit, and Max Richter. So, and because I think it was almost like without me realizing it, I think it was a sort of healing process. Yeah, you know. So
yeah,
sort of licking my wounds, you know, out in the countryside, and after the kind of complete catastrophe of furnaces, you know. So it was actually a very positive thing, and it sort of got me back on track, and I started writing songs again. So,
you know, a year is such a long time for you. Saying you like 3 or 4 projects like going at the same time, and you're always writing, and that, you know, that is you. A year, 12 months is a long period of time.
It's a long time. I was still working with other people, and I was still writing, you know, and writing songs for other people's records, you know, and doing that. So, you know, the mojo was still kind of half intact.
Get the mojo back. I think exactly. That it's very rare. Do you know, I think I'm 32. I can think of really one time in my life, maybe 2, where when something was happening, I was aware that it was a big event, and it was a sort of, you know, life-changing for me period of time. And as a songwriter, I wonder if you're always kind of not necessarily looking for those moments, but trying to be on top of them and trying to see yourself change and define those emotions, see what what's the imagery of that, or what's the specific thing. You know, I thought of this line yesterday. I thought, like, you know, what my dad downstairs watching Eurotrash, I was like, that's such a specific thing in my mind. And I don't know why that comes up now. It's just because that's like a specific detail of a period of time that if I heard that in a song, I'd fucking love it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It makes me think of my dad making a chili and garlic sandwich whilst listening to Ravi Shankar, you know. But like, it's quite random, and that would be great. Like to have that I love that, you know, to have that as a line in the song. You know, Dad's downstairs watching Eurotrash. You know, it'd be great in a song. I think, yeah. And I like that you're touching on that point. I think that's the thing. It's kind of like a self-awareness, isn't it, of your past? But I mean, most of the time, I think when you're writing, it's kind of like you're sort of purging and getting all this stuff out onto the page, and you're not really aware. It's quite otherworldly. I've always thought that it sort of materializes. It's sort of like a ghost that comes to haunt you for a short period of time. You know,
you hope you got your antenna up, ready to get it.
And sometimes it just, you know, it's crazy. I've had moments where that divine little bolt of lightning, and you're standing, you know, I don't know, waiting for a train or something, and literally the melody and the first line of the song comes, and you're like, what? Mm-hmm. You know,
how often has that happened for you? Do you reckon? How many songs? Do you reckon
a few times. There was a song. I'd had an argument with my better half.
Yeah,
and
that's part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, and this line, melody, and the first melody and the line of this song called "Back into the Woods" from my Abbey Road record. I was just waiting for a bus, or I don't know, maybe I was in the tube, and the melody was like, "She wears a thinly veiled contempt," and the melody and the line, and I was like, oh,
brilliant.
But I was feeling like really like melancholy because we'd had a bit of it, you know. So, but then I kind of got my phone and just went, "She wears a dilly" into my phone, you know. And then I was kind of like having to write that record because the guy Pete Hutchings at Abbey Road had given me some downtime from 8 p.m. till whenever late, you know, to make a whole record in 8 hours. So I was trying to write, you know, frenetically writing these songs.
Yeah.
I had a sort of month to write an album, and so that was kind of like the initial spark of it all, you know.
And these are, you know, talk about 101 part-time jobs. This is it. This is it. All these kinds of thoughts and how much weight you give them, how much brain space you give them.
And also, you know, in songwriting, I always like to quote Adam Ant. I always like to quote, "Ridicule is nothing to be scared of." And I think that's like my creed, you know, that I adhere to, like, especially when I'm writing with someone else, you know, you're sort of like prowling like lions around each other, kind of waiting for someone to make the first move. And, you know, when you're trying to come up with a line, the next line of a song, and it can be quite kind of nerve-wracking for either party because you're sort of, if I say this, they're going to think like I'm a bit of an idiot, or, you know, but you just have to say it because it, you know, it might be completely nonsensical or be a ridiculous lyric or line or sentence, but the other person might go, you know, be really receptive and go, "That's genius," you know? So I think there's an element of that, of like not being scared of just kind of writing as much down as possible. Yeah. And then looking back over it later and going, "No, that is a ridiculous line. I'm not using that," you know. But I think, you know, that's the thing. Like, anything can be written about. Anything, you know.
Well, we've all got different experiences. We've all seen different parts of life. We've all met different people, different characters, different personalities. It's like, that's where I often think whether I find something interesting or not now, it's kind of defined whether I like it by what I've seen in life or what I've been exposed to. Yeah. And in that thinking, you know, taste is exposure.
Definitely. Sometimes, yeah, that's true. I mean, but sometimes it's kind of like you can get overexposed in a way. It can be too tasty.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs.
Hey, just to start wrapping up, these stories are great. You know, like, you've had such a wonderful life in music. El Magnifico sounds like a celebration. It sounds like a deep inhale, exhale.
Definitely.
What's something that's happened on this record that hasn't happened before?
It's the first record where I've got like a couple of like duets, like proper duets, you know. In fact, I think it might be the first record where I'm doing a duet with a man. So I'm doing, other than that, it's kind of like an amalgamation of everything that I've done, you know. It's sort of, so there's a song called Broken Keys with Greg Dully from the Afghan Wigs. With sort of, it was kind of, you know, it's like a bit of a bromance thing going on there. So it's a bit romantic. And then the other duet is Stevie Parker, who's a wonderful singer from Bristol who I'd been working with. I wrote this song and at the dead end of the world. And I just remember thinking, right, I've got to get her to sing this song with me. I just love the tone of her voice, and she's just got this, she's incredible. Yeah. So I managed to persuade her to do that. And then,
because I listened to it, they don't sound forced, either of those duets. You know, it didn't jump out at me like, oh, and here's another character immediate. You know what I mean? It's in there. It's in the text.
It's in there. They were both written with the singer in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like wrote them before. I didn't write them and then go, oh, you know, I should get this singer. I had like Greg in mind and Stevie in mind when I wrote them.
Nice.
So I'm very, very prepared and very,
cool.
you know, kind of, but other than that, like, I don't know. I guess there is a thread running through it. It's kind of like me just after Furnaces and the 2 instrumental records, I'm just kind of wanted to do something that people know me best by, you know? So it's kind of, I'm not trying to do something like that's comfortable, but at the same time, I am most comfortable when I'm singing kind of melancholy songs by the piano, you know, with strings and a full orchestra behind me, you know? So, and it also harks back to a lot of records where I was just on my own. It harks back to Maplewood. It's like a sort of hi-fi Maplewood, you know, where I'm just on my own doing all the instruments.
It sounds so effortless. It sounds like you're talking to me like I'm one of your best mates.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
It's like sweeping songwriting. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's
I
fantastic.
appreciate that. Yeah, I hope people dig it when it comes out. And the reaction's been great so far. And I had to also, you know, give props to Dave Lynch, who works down in Eastbourne at Echo Zoo. You know, he's really helped me a lot. And some of the mixing that he did, he's so creative the way that he mixes. When I gave him Deathless, you know, it was nothing like the final sort of outcome. What he did with that, I mean, he sort of was getting tape machines and slowing down guitars and taking the strings.
Excellent.
And he really went for it on that song. So, you know, he's that's the other aspect of, you know, again, you know, objectivity, when you can get too lost in your own. If you're self-producing, it's very easy to get lost in your own sort of recordings and production. So to have that extra pair of ears, that's why, you know, having a producer or a co-producer is so important, you know.
Especially down in Eastbourne. Eastbourne's a funny place.
It's a funny place. It's getting a bit hip now. It's getting quite hip. It's going to be the new Hastings.
I crashed my car in Eastbourne about 10 years ago.
You what? Crashed a car?
And it was awful. I didn't see the line. It sounds ridiculous. I didn't quite see the white line, and to be honest with you, I was looking elsewhere, and just came straight out of this T-junction and got T-boned, and my whole family was in the car. Everyone was fine, but it's like fucking hell. You know, that's definitely a near-death experience.
Jesus.
And it's like, wow.
Oh, well, you can...
Pretty terrifying stuff.
You'll appreciate 1987 even more then.
This is it. And I think that's like, so, you know, I think a lot of people have similar kind of stories, you know. It makes me think of my friend who tried ghosting his car, you know, when you get out and as a bit of a trick, and he somehow turned it over. It was his parents' car and it somehow flipped over and onto grass.
Wow.
But then because it flipped over, he could then push it back onto 4 wheels somehow with his mate. And his parents didn't know.
Drove off.
He drove off, no one recognised.
So that kind of happened to me, and I mention it in the song because I tried to avoid a deer. And we just moved out to the country, and it was late at night, and I was driving back from rehearsing at the Royal Albert Hall. I was musical director for Sky. They were doing a Christmas show, and we had all these 80s singers, and I was also singing a song, and I avoided this deer and ricocheted off a telegraph pole, and the car went on its side with me in it, with the sort of glass going like that, and the airbag came out, and I had to climb out the top of the car, but it was like an SUV, like a 4x4, and I couldn't push it. You know, it was too heavy. And I had sort of concussion, and I was a bit like, what the hell? And the next day was the show at Royal Albert Hall that I was MDing. So when I got there the next day, I was in a bit of a state. And you'll never guess the song that I was singing. It was Driving Home for Christmas.
No. Chris Rea.
And but I did it I did it in a minor key, like a sort of murder ballad. And every year they show it on Sky. They do a rerun, and every year I get complete division on Twitter. I get like someone going, "Are you tone deaf?" This is like probably kicking their TV, and you know, like sort of Sex Pistols style. You know, this is appalling. I can't believe you ruined my favorite song. You know, and then on the other hand, I get someone going, "That's really cool. That's a really cool reinterpretation." You know, I love that. So yeah, I'm doing
and then
my job
for you,
right.
it's a mad memory.
It's just a mad memory of being like, I crashed my car, completely wrote it off, and then had to sort of go and do this gig the next day, sort of still sort of, you know, whiplashed and concussed, you know.
Mad.
Bit of a weird moment. But anyway.
That'll stay with you every Christmas. You won't be forgetting about that.
Exactly. I'll be reminded every Christmas. I'll be reminded by the bloody song as well. Anyway.
101, 101, part-time jobs. 101, 101, 101, part-time jobs.
Ed, thanks so much for being up for doing this. I've got one more memory prodding question.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of people fucking up in the workplace. And saying they know how to use heavy machinery and not knowing how to, but they obviously don't want to get fired.
Yeah.
So, you know, that kind of thing, that kind of world, what springs to mind?
So I was a chef for 2 years, a sous chef down in Sussex, from the age of sort of 20 to 22. And I kind of didn't really know that much about cooking. But, you know, we did cook in the family, but I didn't really know how to work in a kitchen. But I kind of lied to them.
Yeah.
And so I got the job. And my first day on the job, I burnt everything. I burnt like all of the vegetables. I overcooked everything, burnt all the roast potatoes. And then I was chopping up chilies and forgot that I chopped up chilies and went to the toilet. And of course,
touched your wang.
You can imagine what happened next. It was not a great moment.
So what did you do?
No, I just I don't know. I think I just kind of tried to kind of get rid of it but I just had to sort of weather the storm, I guess.
Yeah.
And just kind of deal with all the burnt food.
That's a good one.
I sort of got told off, and then they managed, and then they kind of gave me another chance, and I kind of really upped my game, and so you know, But that was my only sort of before music. That was in between music. I've been in a band, and then, but that was the time when I was starting to write all the songs that, you know.
And we're seeing, you know, especially now on TV with a couple of movies and TV shows like The Bear and the other one that I've forgotten right now. But
Boiling Point.
Boiling Point. Yeah. Those are quite mad environments, aren't they? They're quite separate, kind of alternative subcultures in a way, aren't they?
They're amazing. Yeah, they're really. The Bear really captures it very well. I mean, I wasn't, you know, I was of no way that standard, you know, but you know, I love all the sort of Anthony Bourdain, Kitchen Confidential, all of that kind of stuff. I think, you know, that's right up my street. But that's
good. So you'll know how to cook. Well, you learn a couple of lessons. Sound like?
I did. I learned how to cook, so I love cooking.
Good skill.
I cook a lot now, so yeah,
brilliant.
It was good.
What's your favourite meal? What's your favourite meal to cook? What are you cooking tonight, if you could?
Well, tonight's just going to be like pretty simple, but nothing. You know, just some kind of scallops with some rusty potatoes and you know, that kind of
escalopes,
like winter warmer. And tomorrow I'll do spaghetti with grilled aubergines, like really like crunchy aubergines over the top.
Yes.
With like, but my favourite meal that I cook for friends is this Cornish fish stew. So it's kind of like mussels, white fish like a hake, maybe a bit of salmon, some big prawns in there, and lots of chili flakes and it's kind of a Cornish fish stew that you just capers, lemon juice, vinegar, tinned tomatoes, and then you sort of boil it up, and then you get like some sourdough and make a little aioli.
Okay.
With like saffron and paprika and parsley.
That shit.
And then you dip it in the stew.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they do it at a pub called The Cow on Westbourne Park Road. I know because I've had it there. And they do, it's so delicious. And it's like, it's just a winner. It's just one that every time you cook it, everyone just is very happy.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. So there he was, the Wolfman, Ed Harcourt, here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure you could click the subscribe button, please. Enough. If you leave a review, then maybe I'll treat you if I see it. I don't know. I've got nothing to say there. Cheers for happening. Cheers for being here. Thank you so much. That Ed Harcourt record is seriously fucking fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing him again soon. Hope you're well. Hope all is good. I'll be back next week with episodes with Cody Frost, with Whitelands, who have just put out a brilliant record on Sonic Cathedral, and also with Manga Saint Hilaire from Roll Deep. Tune in. If you're playing music, if you know someone who's playing music and you're releasing their own material, DistroKid is the one for you. Join over 1 million other people taking it into their own hands, bootstrapping it up, going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. If you sign up there, you can release music for 30% off the usual rate for the first year. Everyone's DIY now. I feel like DIY goes all the way up to the top now. You make your own stuff. No one's lending out money. No one's doing everything for you. Take your life in music into your own hands. distrokid.com/VIP/101pod and get 30% off your first year putting music out into the world.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.